Now, this inheritance concept is one key concept you should be aware of because it can allow you to avoid some code duplication. But of course, here in this specific application, I'm still duplicating quite a bit of code. I mean, I have all that list item related code here and then almost the same code down there. And that is also something you might encounter from time to time when working with HTMX, because you might have some routes that return some fragments, which you also use in some other routes. And therefore, one technique you also should be aware of is not HTMX specific at all, but is a general programming technique you shouldn't forget about just because you're using HTMX. You can create an extra function to outsource this shared code. For example, here, I'll add a new function at the top of this file, and I could also store it in a separate file. I just keep it all in this one file so that we can easily jump between those different code snippets. But I'll just create a new function here, which I'll name render goal list item or anything like that. And the single job of this function then is to return this element, this list item element. So I'll copy that list item code here, that string, and return that here as a string with backticks so that it can be multi-line and I can inject content into it inside of this render goal list item function. Of course, this render goal list item function should now accept the ID and the text as an input, so as arguments, so that I can use the ID here in all the places where it's needed to construct the values for these HTMX attributes and for this ID, and I'll use the text here. With that, we can then call render goal list item in all the places where we need that list item code. So for example, here, there, instead of rendering that string, I can now simply call render goal list item and pass the goal.id and goal.text as arguments to that function. And that therefore simplified that code. And I can do the same thing down here, where I return that fragment. There, I now also return the result of calling render goal list item, and I pass my ID and my goal text to that function. And therefore now we again got rid of some code duplication, and if I now save that, I can still add those items here. And I can reload and I also see them and I can still delete them. But again, now we reduced the amount of code duplication. And this is not HTMX specific, but a pattern you might want to use from time to time when working with HTMX.